Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's FPC Radio Live, and it is Friday, September the 23rd, 2022. And John, it is the 21st anniversary of the debut. I wouldn't say debut, but of the opportunity given to one Mr. Tom Brady. Yes, that's right. September 23rd, 2001, the infamous Mo Lewis, Drew Bledsoe game. Tom Brady gets his opportunity, and we all know the rest. So, John, what were you doing 21 years ago today?
I was old. I was 38 years old at that time. I was
older than I am now.
Yeah, see, that's how old I am. I remember the game well because, on the 9th, they had lost to the Jets, and Drew Bledsoe was nearly killed by Mo Lewis. And then there was the league bye week after 9/11. So the next game was against Indianapolis on the 23rd, as you said, Ian. The Patriots were 0-2 and looked like they were hopeless, right? Because you'd lost your franchise quarterback. And who was this second-year guy who was the fourth quarterback last year? Tom Brady. Yeah, I kind of remember him at Michigan. He was kind of in and out of the lineup, and he was good. And we'll see what happens. And I do remember that Indianapolis was like a double-digit favorite. They had Peyton Manning, and they looked like a contending team, and the Patriots won that game. I think it was more about their defense that day. A lot of turnovers. Did Ty Law not have a pick six, or just there was a really bunch of mistakes by Manning, but Brady got the win, and we've seen what's happened over the last 21 years. A lot of winning.
Yeah, and again, I mean, at the time, there was a lot of talk about who he's going to be. Obviously, there was a huge contingent for Drew Bledsoe. I mean, the guy just received, at the time, a very rich contract. I mean, pale in comparison to what we see today. But, it was very, very evident early on that, despite not having necessarily the flashiness or the big arm, so to speak, it was deceivingly good, he just knew how to win. I mean, this franchise under Bill Belichick, and this isn't a knock on Belichick, this is just stating where they were at the time, was 5-13. And, I'm sure there were some overreactions and you got to fire Belichick. I mean, there were a lot of people who didn't like the hire to begin with, let alone after a 5-13 start. Well, it's not a coincidence that, at that point, they went 11-3, went on to win the Super Bowl, and no one's saying it. Excuse me, because I get into these debates all the time on Twitter, and it's so disingenuous on their part. But no one's saying
you debate on Twitter.
I know, John. It's against my nature to do so, but every so often, I divulge. But it's the argument's always disingenuous because no one's ever saying that it was 100% Tom Brady. I mean, that's just foolish. Again, there's 52, 53 players on a roster. But again, we're talking about the quarterback who, it isn't my opinion. It's just, I mean, based on everything we know about this game, it's a statement of fact. They are the most important player when it comes to winning and losing in this league consistently. It doesn't mean that you can have a quarterback have a great game and lose. And it doesn't also mean that you can have a quarterback have a bad game and win. That happens. It's not perfect. But when it comes to long-term success across the season, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, you need a really good quarterback to win consistently and to win Super Bowls. You're not going to do it without one. So he comes in, turns the franchise around. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And then, of course, from then on there...
You're getting choked up.
I know. I get very emotional around this time of year.
I'm just wondering, are you coming north to have a pilgrimage today in Foxborough? I mean, that's my
no, but I'm going to at 1 o'clock. I start the game, and I play it, and I watch the commercials, and at every moment, I celebrate it just like I did at the time. No. I worship in my own way, John. Plus my pilgrimage. I don't have time for any more pilgrimages, but no, look, I mean, it's not a coincidence the guy comes in and you look at his run, short of 2002, which I think, at the time or in hindsight, we can look back and say that 2002 Patriots team kind of fell into the trap that a lot of Super Bowl winners do. And at least at the time where it's like, okay, you win a title and guess what? maybe you celebrate a little bit, maybe you get a little bit more too comfortable in your own shoes or whatever. And you have a disappointing season. That's kind of what happened with the Patriots, but that was the only time they missed the playoffs where he was the starter. Obviously 2008, but he gets knocked out in the first half of the first game. So, no one in their right mind except for Russell Wilson fans are going to count that season against him. So, it's not, and then you have him go to Tampa, who as down in the dumps as the Patriots organization had been, Tampa was literally worse. And, we see what happens there. So, great anniversary, and hopefully next year we will be celebrating it ahead of yet another Tom Brady start in that Sunday. So we'll see, though. We'll see.
You know what? You look back at that, and I know we got a lot to discuss today, but back in that 2001 season, they beat the Colts. Then they lost the following week, I think, in Denver to go to 1-3, if I'm not mistaken. So they're 1-3 at that point. It was like, okay, that was just a mirage, the win over Indianapolis. Then they're playing the Chargers with Doug Flutie, and the Chargers are up 10 in the fourth quarter. The Patriots are 1-3, down 10 in the fourth quarter to a pretty good Chargers team. And he comes back and wins that game in overtime. Winning in overtime is something the Patriots had never done. Yeah. Like in their history, they never won overtime games. And of course, once he became the quarterback, they very rarely, if ever, lost overtime games. I think they only lost 2 of them, at Denver and at the Jets. So the only 2 times that they lost in overtime with Brady, they won so many of them. But to me, that was the biggest win. Because now if you lose to the Chargers, and again, down 10 in the fourth quarter, if you lose that game, you're 1-4. And now it's like, well, when's Bledsoe coming back? And all that stuff. They won that game and then obviously only lost 2 more games the rest of the way, including one to the Rams on a Sunday night when after the game, Mike Martz said, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. There was their last loss. And Mike Martz after the game says, I wouldn't be surprised if we see these guys again. And everybody just looked at him like, are you nuts? Well, 2 months later, they met them again.
And, again, it just, no one could have predicted what was about to come, but, at the same time, it was a fun 21 years and counting so far. So we'll get to that a little bit more later. Unfortunately, we have to talk more about what we started talking about yesterday, and that is the Celtics and Ime Udoka situation, which has evolved a lot since we spoke about it yesterday when we were really working on very vague and very little information. He is being suspended for the entire year. And quite frankly, John, I don't think he's coming back. I thought yesterday that maybe, maybe this consensual, although inappropriate, was not, a situation that necessarily crossed the line to fire him. Discipline, yes. Based on what I saw, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm trying to avoid any speculation because I said it yesterday, and we both said it yesterday. It was irresponsible, I think, for Woj to tweet out such vague details about this whole situation, because not only it led the Twitter mob and social media mob to formulate their own opinions, but you pretty much had internet detectives, quote unquote, and I use that term very loosely, trying to figure out which female Celtics employee was involved, which is I mean, I don't even know where to begin when it comes
disgusting.
to it's disgusting. And look, this is coming from, no, not necessarily professional accounts, but the fan accounts that have nearly 100,000 followers in that. I mean, that it's wildly inappropriate and dangerous for some of these people because, again, we're not talking about every person being a rational thinker on social media. There are a lot of absolutely out of their mind crazies on Twitter. I'm sorry if that's you, then, maybe you have to look in the mirror, but it was wildly inappropriate and unfair to everyone involved because, again, I mean, at one point you had an assistant VP on the Celtics being basically investigated and she had nothing to do with it. So now everyone knows her name and is going to be, her name's going to pop up. And guess what? Ime Udoka's name's going to be right there with him. And it's just going to be this endless cycle that, again, that's how social media works. But I saw a report from Sham earlier saying along the lines of this may have turned a little inappropriate on his behalf, which again, I think is why the steps have been taken, because when you sit there and you say, like, look, no one's condoning extramarital affairs or anything like that, but at the end of the day, that's your own personal business and the people that are involved. So to me, I don't necessarily care about that when it comes to basketball or hockey. It's, you deal with it in your house as long as there's no illegal activities going on. I couldn't care less about your personal life. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a certain line that, like, just because they're an athlete, I don't need to, or a coach, I don't need to know every single detail about their life. It's just they're human. I don't care. But when there's potential harassment or things that cross the line, that's where I think folks that that's where I think this becomes a little bit more than just, yeah, you know what, they just couldn't keep it in their pants type of thing. This was, him maybe crossing the line much further than we anticipated, certainly yesterday. And on a side note, John, before I let you comment, because I know you want to comment, for anyone out there criticizing the Celtics organization, what do you want? Because, like, haven't we just for the last several years gone through this situation where you have these men in power taking advantage of their situation, and everyone's chastising, why didn't you take action? Why didn't you take action? Well, guess what? The Celtics just took action, and now you're criticizing the Boston Celtics for it. Like figure out what you want, okay? If you don't care about, like, these issues in the workplace and sexual harassment or anything like that, then just commit to it. You know what I mean? Stay consistent, and then we can judge you based on that. Otherwise, this is exactly what you want. You want these organizations to be as proactive as possible. And I do think, based on, I guess, the timeline of learning about all this, I think the Celtics were fairly proactive. Again, I mean, information can change, and, come to find out there could be other situations that arose months ago. But quite frankly, I think the Celtics are being proactive. And if what the information that's coming out, if that's the case, then I don't see how you bring him back at this point.
No, I don't think he's coming back. I think they've suspended him with pay, and I think they're doing this so that he doesn't coach elsewhere this year, because I would assume if he gets fired that the Brooklyn Nets would probably get a hold of him pretty quickly, especially if Brooklyn gets off to a slow start, because we know that Ime Udoka and Kevin Durant have a really good relationship, and no one thinks Steve Nash is a really high-level coach. So the Celtics are probably saying, look, we're going to have to pay the guy for the year, suspend him, and then at the end of the year release him, and then he's free to go wherever he wants to go. The criticism of the Celtics is so that all these internet sleuths weren't spending their day yesterday, sending out pictures of all the women that work for the Celtics. Well, I don't think the Celtics were going to divulge who the woman was to get everybody off the hook. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what's going to happen. So no matter what they did, if the Celtics have 80 female employees, and I'm just using that as a throwaway number, if they have 80 female employees, then people are going to look at every single one of them and go, is this her? Is this her? Is this her? Well, the Celtics aren't going to say, yeah, you know who it is? It's so-and-so, so-and-so. So now the other 79 people are off the hook. They weren't going to go there anyway. So this was not going to stop yesterday, no matter what the Celtics did, unless they pointed the finger at the woman who had this affair with Ime Udoka. So that wasn't going to happen. Obviously we heard that it was consensual, but then as the day went on, not so much. And I will say this, that I think the biggest rivalry in sports right now, Ian, is not Red Sox Yankees or Duke North Carolina, Ohio State Michigan. I think the biggest rivalry in sports right now is Shams v. Woj. I think that is the biggest rivalry in sports because again, Shams was kind of his protege, right? And now they work for different outlets. And I can tell you the protege-mentor relationship is strange. So I don't think they really like each other anymore. And they both make a lot of money. Woj makes like $9 million a year doing what he does. So he has to keep being good at it. So that was put out there, even though there wasn't a lot of context to it. And I also think the Celtics, look, we can do this. I think there's someone that ratted out Ime Udoka and the Celtics.
I think
there's a possibility. And I'm going to jump to this conclusion. Will Hardy was Ime Udoka's chief assistant last year.
Yeah.
He was hired in late June as the new head coach of the Utah Jazz by one Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge, I believe, has a vendetta against the Celtics. I know his son, Austin, still works in the front office. I'm sure Danny Ainge knew what was going on, whether it's through his son, Austin Ainge, or through Will Hardy. And I think he has it out for the Celtics, and maybe he's the person who leaked this stuff to Woj. And at that point, the Celtics now went into crisis mode because they were kind of blindsided by it. Although you would think they would have cleared this up sooner rather than later because media day is Monday. You can't have media day Monday and not have Udoka there. People are going to say, well, where is he? Well, he's on leave right now. He's got kidney stones or something. I mean, he's a coach. It's not a player who you can say, yeah, he's got a bulky knee.
We know this would have eventually come out because I know some people were, even before we kind of learned the details, were like, oh, they could have just handled this in-house. Like, you can't just brush off your head coach that just came off his first season going to the NBA Finals that's just being suspended for the year and not give any details. That information was going to get out. And like I said, based on what we know, I don't think the Celtics were trying to hide. I think perhaps they, we're trying to deal with it internally, not fully, and understanding that eventually they were going to have to be transparent about it. I don't think there was any sort of sketchy attempt to cover it up. I think they were just, again, like us, just trying to, how do you deal with this situation? Especially, again, if you believe the detail that it involved, someone's spouse that was also involved in the organization. So there's a lot of layers to this outside of just a purely consensual relationship. And again, it's how do you handle it? I understand, like, from a media standpoint, you want to be the first, but there's a certain responsibility you have, and I feel like that creed, that code of conduct has completely gone out the window. So because of that rivalry, because of the Woj and Shams rivalry, Woj was willing to create this graphic, put his name on it, put his watermark on it, go through all this to basically say nothing and create this firestorm of speculation. And again, I said it yesterday kind of jokingly because I saw someone tweet this, and it was I thought it was funny. It was like, I had no idea if Ime had missed a meeting or was stockpiling cocaine at TD Garden. Like, I mean, the range in which this could have been was created because of Woj, and only because of Woj.
Or throw a punch at Brad Stevens in a meeting, or whatever.
Or kidnapped Wick's daughter. I mean, who knows? Like,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, it could have been anything.
All crazy things, but yeah, exactly. Especially in this day and age. Imagine if Twitter existed during Watergate. That would have been quite.
Oh my God, it's
quite amazing. But yeah, no, it's just there's so much that goes on with this, and again, the reason ESPN pays Woj is, I think, more for Twitter than for what he does
sure.
on SportsCenter, because he's not exactly the most charismatic guy on the air, right?
No,
I mean, at least Schefter is. Because Schefter has a personality and he'll fight with people, and he's kind of a little Joe Pesci in him, no pun intended with the little part either. But Woj is more of an information guy, and he puts this stuff out on Twitter, so they pay him handsomely. So he's got 60% of the story. He's like, I got to get this out here. My bosses want me to get this out because Shams, I'm sure, is working on this, and maybe he's got more than I have, so I got to beat him to the punch. So yeah. I just think that that's where we're at right now, which is unfortunate. And now going forward, I mean, the season's a month away, and the Celtics are going to have a new head coach. And I agree with you, and I don't think he comes back. I think he sits out the year.
How do you bring him back?
You can't. It's not. And people said, well, Alex Cora came back. Alex Cora was suspended by the league, not by the Red Sox. The Red Sox gladly brought him back because, it was more of a us against them, where in this case, it's an us against us. Mm-hmm. Totally different.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Celtics season's over. I don't know. I mean, this is a good team that, there's a lot of really good plays on here. And look, we're just learning about all this. So it's going to be, information gathering time. What really happened? How does it affect the team? Maybe the team knew about it. Maybe there was issues during the playoffs that we didn't know about, but maybe the players did. You know what I mean? Like, maybe there was just situations that were just obviously not privy, information that wasn't privy to the public or the media or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Real quick, John, and I think, the plan on Monday, we will dive into this situation in far more detail. We're just based on timing. We're not going to be able to give it its due justice. And I think it certainly warrants some attention. Brett Favre. Brett, Favre. What we've seen based on his text messages, the subsequent indictments of some people involved in this fraud in Mississippi, the guy needs to go. I mean, I've seen there's enough damning information just in his text alone to tell me that he knew enough about what was happening that he should be culpable. And I think
absolutely.
I think there is an absolute I don't understand, like I'm not always for, like, I understand everyone's, it's a very touchy subject because, like, everyone unfortunately tries to bring race into every situation, and it's not always the case, but it's like there's always like, oh well, if this was this guy, we were talking about it in a sports sense the other day, if it was this guy, we'd be hearing this. It's like that's not the case everywhere. I've been shocked that there's been relative radio silence about Brett Favre, and I believe as soon as just a few days ago, I heard him on Sirius XM during his segment that he does every week. So
right,
something has to happen here, and what he's being accused of is not just I mean, the guy's being accused, a millionaire's being accused of stealing money from the poorest state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's beyond me. And like I said, I wish we had the time to give this more justice. I think we will on Monday or at some point later next week, where we can really dive into the details and try to be as accurate as possible. But this is not something that should be ignored, and it should be something that should be given a lot of attention.
And this isn't the first time either. There's been other issues with Brett Favre when it comes to
he sent a picture of his member.
Well, not even that.
That kind of speaks to his character a little bit, though.
That does, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like I know there's always a comparison with Rodgers and Favre. I mean, Rodgers is full of himself, an egotist, whatever.
But
he's
not,
a different
not
guy.
harmful. I mean, yeah.
No. I mean, he's done a ton for charity. I mean, he's donated millions of dollars to businesses during the pandemic. I know he hooked up with social media outlets to do that. So no, I think he's a good guy in that sense. I think he's a little bit out there. But Favre just seems like a guy you'd look at and go, holy crap, this guy is a piece of crap. How do you steal $6 million from the poorest people in your home state, and you divert it to build a volleyball arena for where your daughter's going to school, where you went to school? Like, Brett Favre couldn't write a check for this? Like, I'm sure he's got tons of money. He still does a million ads. He made a lot of money as a player. I mean, I'm sure he knows enough wealthy people in Mississippi that they could contribute money to build this thing. And wasn't there some other issue with him like a year ago where there was $1 million that he was paid to do something and he never did it? And
Again, we'll dive into this more on Monday. Yeah. So again, we don't want to do exactly what we don't like seeing. That is just based purely on speculation. But it is something that I did want to mention because we are giving the attention that we are to the Celtics situation, which it should get it both topics should get its due diligence and due attention. I do believe that the Brett Favre situation, though, has been woefully unreported by the mainstream media, and that is something that unfortunately should change, and hopefully does. And I think this is where social media pressure, I think, is a good thing, because you can see the pressure building now more so than what it has been. There's a lot of people vocally and a lot of notable people, former players, calling for more attention to this situation. And I think that eventually is going to happen. So, all right, we only have about 10 minutes left. I mean, this is going to be very, very, very tight, but we're trying to give we will give our picks for this weekend, and hopefully I will be right more than John. So we're just going to dive right into it. We'll give a quick little opinion, perhaps maybe spend a little bit more time on that Bucks-Patriots game, or Bucks-Packers game. I was a little flip in my mind there, but here we go. Let's do it. Houston at Chicago to start the Sunday off. I took Houston in this game. I don't know. kind of toss it up. I want to see a little bit more out of Chicago. I kind of like Davis Mills. I think Houston. I don't know. This just feels like a Houston Lovie Smith revenge game, quote unquote. So give me Houston.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. Plus, will the Chicago Bears fans boo Justin Fields for what he had to say earlier in the week? You know, when he said, the fans don't have any stake in this because we're the ones that go to work every day and work hard. So, and I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, I'll go with Houston in this. But a little bit of an upset, although a game that what part of the country's watching this outside of Houston and Chicago?
probably me. We'll probably get it in this area down in Tampa, unfortunately.
Right, yeah. For some reason,
yeah. Next, we have Cincinnati at the Jets. The Jets obviously coming off a big win. Cincinnati has yet to pick up a win. I have to pick excuse me. I have to pick Cincinnati here, right? I mean, I can't pick the Jets to win this game, but my confidence is very low right now with Cincinnati because I don't know. I don't like their offensive line play right now. I think there's a lot of issues they need to resolve, but I'm going to take the Bengals in this one.
I like the Bengals big in this game. It's actually my best bet. And you can look out for that on Sunday when I give them out against the point spread because they lost to the Jets last year, so they'll be laser focused on this one. And I think they found their mojo in the second half against Dallas on both sides of the ball. So I like Cincinnati in a blowout.
All right. Next, we have Buffalo at Miami. This is interesting. I mean, I'm going to pick Buffalo, but we're going to learn a lot, I think, about Miami this week because what we saw last week was impressive, no doubt about it. Buffalo's different. If you can do what you do against the Ravens, against Buffalo, then I think you start to really have to look at the Dolphins a little bit differently. I don't think they win this game. Doesn't mean I don't think they might play very well against the Bills, but give me the Bills in this one.
I like the Bills. I just don't think Miami's going to be able to deal with Buffalo's pass rush, which is just phenomenal at this point. Give me the Bills.
All right. We have Philadelphia heading to play the Commanders. I took Philadelphia again. We talked about the NFC earlier in the week. Philly is arguably one of the top two teams in the conference right now, and I think they take care of business against Washington, who is an interesting team. They kind of mirror their quarterback, where great game or moments. Poor moments, and we'll just kind of see. I think they come up short against Washington. All right, Philadelphia.
I'm with you. Fly, Eagles, fly.
All right, Detroit at Minnesota. I'm taking the Detroit Lions. Yes, the number 2 scoring offense through 2 weeks, John. Number 2 in the league. 1 point behind Buffalo. 72 points, Lions, 71. Now, their defense isn't quite like Buffalo's, but I think against the Minnesota team that just really looked poor on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football rather. I like Detroit here. Maybe I'm starting to buy into the Dan Campbell stuff. Maybe I'm finally drinking that Kool-Aid. But give me the Lions in an upset of the week.
They have offensive talent. There's no question about that.
Sure.
Look at Goff's numbers at home. So now he's playing in a dome again. So that's probably a spot for him. I'll take Minnesota. I think they bounce back. But this could be an interesting game. This could be a wildly entertaining, high-scoring game. But I'll take the Vikings at home.
The Raiders are still trying to find their first win. This week, I do think they get it against Tennessee, who I just don't think are very good. I actually heard on a national radio program someone actually start to ask the question, has Derrick Henry hit a wall? Well, unfortunately for them, they're a few days late because I had already asked that question on this show, and I'm going to be curious to see how he performs against, a pretty good defensive front for the Raiders. So I got the Raiders winning this game and finally picking up their first win of the Josh McDaniels era. Hey, look, last time he started 6-0 and it didn't end well. So, this might maybe start 0-2 and things will change for him. So
I'll take Tennessee. When you come off an embarrassing Monday night game, most people think that the next week you're going to be even worse. Oftentimes teams will bounce back from that. So I'll take Tennessee in this.
Next, we have New England hosting first home game of the season. Actually, no, first, second. First home game. Right. New England hosting Baltimore. Yeah, I see. Remember, DirecTV. I couldn't actually watch the game last weekend. It kind of threw me off. I'd say it. I'm going to take Baltimore in this one. I like what I'm looking for from the Patriots. I'm looking for certain things. Obviously, a win is ideal. But I need to see some improvement. If they don't get the win, I need to see some improvement in some other areas against what I think is a pretty talented team. I'm not too high on their defense right now, so maybe the Patriots can take advantage of that. However, I do think the Ravens are going to eke this one out, especially after blowing that lead against Miami. So I'll take the Ravens.
I like the Patriots in this one in an upset. I do. I think the home opener. I think the offensive line played decently last week, and to me, that's the most important part of this team. The defense is pretty good. You look back at what they did against Miami in Week 1. That wasn't a bad performance considering what Miami did in Week 2 against Baltimore. So feel okay about that.
I think they'll play well. I certainly will think they play well. I'm not. I mean, there are people out there that cover the team that seem like they're rooting for them to fail. I think they will play well. I just think they're going to come up a little bit short in this one. Which again,
it could.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at not necessarily wins and losses. Right now, where this team is at. Again, it's all about perspective. The moment Tom Brady left, I understood that, yes, this team is going to take a step back. And it's just that's what happens when you lose the greatest quarterback of all time. So we'll see how it goes. I do think it's going to be a close game, though. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. And I think Baltimore is certainly not this, unstoppable team for sure. So next we have Jacksonville at the Chargers. I picked the Chargers. I did because I do think they're the better team, but I like Jacksonville a lot more than I did last year. Last year I thought was just a disaster from start to finish. They're kind of starting to get some things going, and they have some offensive talent that I'm very curious to see how it's going to evolve over the course of the season. But I do think the Chargers at home, wherever that is, will get the best of Jacksonville in this one.
Yeah, this will be the one home game that will feel like a home game for the Chargers because I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars travel all that well. No. It's not the Steelers or the Packers or the Cowboys coming to town. Look, two extremely talented quarterbacks, 13 feet of quarterback with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. Yeah. We should see some phenomenal throws here. I'll take the Chargers. They got to get themselves righted. Plus, they have a little extended time to prepare for this game because they played on a Thursday night, but do check the health of Justin Herbert, who had that rib injury and against Kansas City a week ago. But I'll take the Superchargers.
All right, Rams at Cardinals. I know the Cardinals came back from a deficit, big win this past weekend, but I'm going to take the Rams in this one on the road.
Yeah, me too. I think so. I'll take the Rams as well.
All right, we got Atlanta at Seattle. I like Atlanta in this game. I mean, I neither team is really good to me, so but I like Atlanta a little bit more in this one, and I hope to God that Kyle Pitts gets going because, good God, my fantasy team needs it. So give me the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I'll take Atlanta. This one is for the Birds without question. But, they've played pretty well in both games against good competition. And I think Seattle is going to be flat after that, back-to-back emotional games after beating Russell Wilson and going out to San Francisco. I like the Falcons in this game.
All right, Kansas City at Indy. Kansas City. I mean, Matt Ryan looks cooked. This Colts team doesn't look like they have any redeeming qualities. I gotta take the Chiefs.
Yeah. Again, a longer prep time, an extra few days gives Andy Reid more time in the lab. Yeah, the Chiefs should roll in this contest. Again, in a dome. When you put these great quarterbacks in a dome, they really light it up.
San Francisco at Denver. Let's ride. Give me San Francisco. I think this is an easy pick. Easy. San Francisco.
Yep, I'm with you on this. We're agreeing a lot this week.
I know.
It's also it's a weird.
Just wait until the last game.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that one's going to be different. But it's also one of the weakest cards I can ever remember. I mean, like Falcons, Seahawks was the other game we were talking about.
Well, we said that last week too, and we didn't have Brady versus Rodgers to redeem it. So,
I know.
And it last week turned out to be pretty darn entertaining. So
make the NFL special. You could have Atlanta, Seattle could turn out to be 31-28 in overtime, and never will be talking about it on Monday.
Or maybe it'll be Dallas at New York Giants, which is our penultimate game to pick in this pick segment. So there we have it. Dallas at Giants. I'm taking the Giants to go to 3-0, John. 3-0.
Yep.
Like I think the Cowboys had a nice win this past weekend. I don't think it's going to carry over this week. I think the Giants are going to eke out a win. This isn't going to be your Chiefs blowing out the Cardinals in week one. This will be a gritty, maybe down to the wire type victory for the Giants. But I do have the Giants moving to 3-0.
As Skip Bayless says, Cooper Rush is the 2022 version of Tom Brady in 2001, right? Like he's going to step in and carry the Cowboys to the Super Bowl. No, I like the Giants. I've been on them all year.
He said that about Tony Romo. He said that about Dak Prescott. Yeah. Like that's kind of his model. So we've agreed a lot. Do we agree on this Giants. Final game? Green Bay at Tampa Bay, despite the uncertainty of who's going to be out there on the field. Taking the Buccaneers in this game. And look, I mean, obviously, I'm going to favor Brady in this matchup. And Rodgers obviously has a long history of struggles against Tampa. I mean, it's just one of those things even before Brady was there. The Bucs defense is really good. And I think people will sleep on this team, even if they do move to 3-0, until that offense finds its rhythm. And I think as soon as they get healthy, they're going to find that rhythm. So it's not necessarily going to be this week, but they're going to be able to do enough against a team that, quite frankly, they've scored more points than. For as much as the Bucs offense has quote unquote struggled, they've scored more than the Green Bay Packers through 2 games.
Yeah, the Packers have struggled on offense. Even last week when they looked good at times, it still felt very choppy. They had turnovers, which they normally don't have. They take care of the football. Rodgers has always struggled in Tampa, not just when Brady was there, but even before that. I remember he pulled a calf muscle in 2014. They barely won. And then 6 years before that, he had a disastrous game. Doesn't play well there at all. 2 really good defenses, 2 great quarterbacks who don't have a lot around them at this point with injuries and trades and all of that. So I just want to see how many times the 2 quarterbacks flip out. That's going to be the most important thing. At least the thing about Brady is he's outwardly flips out, like he'll start smashing things. I like that. Rodgers just rolls the eyes, which can be more frustrating for teammates. Get in someone's face and yell at them and then get over with it instead of, this passive aggressive stuff that he's really good at. But he's Kevin Durant of football.
Well, it should be fun either way, and I'm glad that they put this in the afternoon window. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today. Join myself on Sunday, our NFL Sunday pregame show. Of course, we also have our Fantasy Live show coming up on Sunday as well. And then John and I, will be back on Monday to break down all this action and, of course, revel in the latest Tom Brady victory over Aaron Rodgers. So thank you, everyone. Give us a follow on Twitter at Full Press NFL, at FPC Radio Live, and of course, head over to fullpresscoverage.com and check out all the great stuff going on over there. So thank you, everyone, and we will talk to you on Monday.